is a story about, just to lead you a bit more into it, intelligence and compassion of animals, is a rat called June. It's in two parts, this, and this is so gorgeous. This is from an animal communicator, true story, and we all look at rats as if they're annoying things, that vermin that spread disease. We still got that, mindset about rats, and we always carry it. And I want to just lead you into this beautiful world of this rat called June. One day in the month of May, a pet rat was tossed out of an open window by humans who didn't want her anymore. One night in the month of June, a man found the rat searching for food. He trapped her in a pot, put the lid on, and left her in the closet. He happened to be the housing manager of a dormitory building where a young woman named Michelle lived. "Hey, Michelle, look what I found," he said, when he saw her 2 days later, as he knew she loved rats. Michelle took the lid off the pot, and the rat gratefully climbed right up her arm. Michelle could see that this was an animal who had been born in captivity and then abandoned, who was simply looking for food and shelter and didn't know how to fend for herself. So she took the rat home as her pet and named her June. Michelle recalls her first impression of June. There was something special about June. She seemed so ancient and wise, so sure of herself on her path on this earth. She had climbed Michelle's arm very deliberately and made it clear that she had no intention of leaving. Michelle and June formed an instant bond. June soon became Michelle's best friend and roommate, and this is the really sweet thing, and very popular resident of the building where everyone adored her. Each evening, Michelle announced June would be making her rounds, and the other residents opened their hallway doors in hopes of a visit from this adorable, personable June. June ran up and down the hallways with everyone calling her name. She ran in and out of the rooms, visiting all the friendly neighbours, and whenever Michelle called out her name, she always came running. You can picture this little thing. It's just gorgeous, isn't it? Michelle then goes on to explain in more detail, "I must admit, I loved her soft coat, her pretty ears, and her delicate pink hands and feet. But there was a lot more to June than her appearance. She had such presence. People could sense it right away. Even those who thought they didn't like rats, upon hearing that she was a rat, people often initially responded negatively, but upon actually meeting her, they came to know and love her simply as June. She seemed like such a wise old soul, filled with unconditional love for all people, regardless of their initial reaction to her. Once you looked into her shiny, round, soulful eyes, you just knew someone important was looking back at you." And so this is the part that I really wanted to tell you about with June. So I've given you the introduction of her. This is the essence, now that I've talked on more of a heart level and more of a higher understanding of the intelligence of these animals, right? One time, soon after my mother had passed away, my dad came to stay with us for a short while. During his visit, Dad and June grew quite fond of each other. When it came for Dad to leave, he packed his bags and was preparing for his ride to the airport. It had been a wonderful time to spend with him, and we were going to miss him. We said our goodbyes. It was a sad moment, and Dad turned to hug me. I noticed tears in his eyes. It seemed that in that moment, all the pain had been building up inside and was now bubbling to the surface. I had never seen him so choked up, and as I searched for words of comfort, I heard a rustle nearby. We all heard it, and as we looked down, there was June, perched on the edge of an oversized wicker basket nearby, as high as she could climb. She was looking straight up at my dad and reaching up to him very intently with both of her delicate little arms, which she had never done before. He reached down to stroke her, and she very deliberately climbed right onto his hand and up his arm onto his chest and just clutched him and looked at him. She looked at him. He held his hand up in support of her, and she clasped his hand with her own little tiny hands and looked him in the eye. Again, she looked at him. It was clearly June's turn to say goodbye. Dad then tried to put her down, but June climbed right back up on his chest, clutched him tightly, and resumed eye contact. Of course, June couldn't speak, but in that moment you wouldn't know it. In her own special way, June spoke volumes. We could all hear her softly say, "It's okay, Grandpa. Everything is going to be okay." In that moment, we were all deeply moved. The love and compassion we felt pouring out of this little creature known as June was almost overwhelming. Not wanting Dad to miss his flight, I reached out for June so that he could go. She looked back at me and all but shook her head as she clearly communicated, no, Grandpa needs me now. She made it clear that he needed her in that moment to comfort him, and he was touched immensely. She continued clutching on him, looking right at him, and communicating in a language beyond words. We all felt it. She stayed there with him, and time stood still as she filled him up with pure, unconditional love. He was deeply moved. We all were. Once June had completed sending her message of love and comfort, she climbed back down again. The whole mood in the room had changed, and Dad left in peace. To this day, Dad holds this warm memory, that sweet gift of love, from this tiny little being and the lasting impact that her love left with him.